with the second session of day 9 of this 2-week faculty development program organized by Ballarpur Institute of Technology and sponsored by All India Council for Technical Education. The guest for this session today we have is Mr. Akhilesh Mr. Akhilesh has more than 10 years of experience in the IT industry. He started his journey in the IT industry after being hired by TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, in campus interviews. He was designated as an implementation expert in TCS. He then led the implementation of TCS Treasury product for 3 domestic banks as an implementation expert. In the year 2016, he joined Hunar TechWorks Consulting LLP, a Pune-based IT firm, as a business analyst. Since then, he was promoted several times, and now he continues to work in the capacity of senior business consultant in Hunar TechWorks. His primary job is to understand the client problem statement, conceptualize and strategize solution, lead and deliver and implement, and finally hand over the solution. He has been doing this successfully in the IT division of clients across the globe. These include Amsterdam and Paris-based Ingenico Payments, Indonesia-based Excel Axiata, India-based Airtel, and so on. He considers his experience in the European IT industry very vital for his professional growth. As per him, the change in work environments due to change in the cities like Amsterdam, Paris, and in Asian cities like Jakarta and Delhi is very curious in nature. Such change guides us for the near future. Akhilesh sir, we are really very happy and consider this as an excellent opportunity to connect with the IT fraternity today. So let us make the most of this session. I now request Akhilesh sir to please start the session. Akhilesh sir, over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Abhijit sir. Am I audible, loud and clear?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay, please let me know once you can see the deck, coaching and mentoring in engineering.
It is already visible. It's on the screen.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot for having me again on this program, Abhijit. And
But I had mentioned the camera. Your camera has again stopped functioning the way it was.
Yes, I think it is because when I switch, the tile goes away if I switch to the deck on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I had mentioned this last time also that I really feel very related to this because I graduated as an engineer from Nagpur YCC and joined TCS, and then I've been working for different clients. So I can totally relate to the existing engineering environment, all the coaching and mentoring that happens in engineering, and what is the exact market requirement or what is it that companies are looking at when they go to the engineering colleges. So I have myself been on the interview panel for around 6 to 7 years now, and I hope with this session I would be able to add a good value for all the lecturers who have joined us. Okay, so thanks once again, and let us begin. Are you able to see the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So basically, dear participants, what we will try to understand today is first what is needed or what is it that companies are looking at when they come to colleges for hiring engineering freshers. Then in a short point, we'll try to understand that why is it that we have shifted from the previous bare minimum criteria or the bare minimum skill sets that were there to the new set of skill sets. And mostly we would be focusing in this session on how to achieve. So we won't be talking much about the problem statement, but we would rather be mixing up the problem statement and the solution that I suppose, in my opinion, I can offer, being from the company or from the interview panel. So I suppose this slide, in different ways, we all have seen that what is it that is required for students development or engineering students development these days. The first one is the technical know-how and domain knowledge. So no matter in whichever field you are, whatever stream of engineering we have taken or chosen, definitely technical know-how and domain knowledge or understanding of that particular field or stream is really important. But along with that, now the things have changed, and the companies are really looking for interpersonal skills, teamwork, time management, stress management, and other such criteria. So I'm pretty sure that lecturers by now must have come across this kind of slide in different designs from different lecturers, or different websites as well. So this is what is actually needed. We'll quickly also understand why these skills are needed these days. So we know that the markets are emerging dynamically, the requirements are changing very fast, because be it payments industry or be it the e-commerce industry, the user experience needs to improve. That means that there has to be seamless integration between different applications, and that brings too many people together, it brings too many vendors together and different stakeholders together. So the market dynamics are changing, because of which now startup culture has taken up. Now a lot of clients are realizing that it is not always only the big names that matter, but it is the quality of your work or the quality of your job that is what matters. And the same has been seen slowly in terms of colleges also. It is not always the college ranking. Definitely, it is still a major factor, but since the startup culture has come up, it is a hint for colleges as well, that when you are ready to provide that quality, when you are ready to provide or supply for a particular requirement, then the companies are open to absorb students from all the colleges, irrespective of the location or the ranking for that particular college. So what would matter, or what is mattering these days, is the result oriented approach and the multicultural team members, or the multicultural team structure that is being formed. So basically, students should be able to resolve a particular problem, they should be able to work towards a particular goal, and that is what is companies are looking for, especially startups. So I
Sir,
have
I'm
a
sorry.
question.
I'm sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. In the last slide, you mentioned that because there is a lot of system integration which is required. There was a sentence in which there were almost two terms. One is system integration required and or taking place, and
Yeah.
there are many stakeholders involved. If you would please help us, understand what do you mean when you say that there are many stakeholders involved and system integration is going on or required.
Okay, so earlier how it was happening was, the major breakthrough in the industries were brought by big companies. So they would come as a single party or a single point of contact for those changes. Okay, once you liaise, or once a client liaise with those companies, then they would work from on the end-to-end solution. But now the requirements are huge and the market is also huge. So it is becoming difficult for companies to provide a quality solution for that. So just to give you an example, let us take a payment system. Okay, so you go to a POS or point of sale and you take that POS machine and you swipe your card on that. When you swipe on that card, that particular detail goes to a particular back office data, or data mart we would call that. Then it is picked up by a process which sends some signal to your acquirer. When I say acquirer, it is let's say Visa is an acquirer, or Barclays is an acquirer, okay, or HDFC is an acquirer. So it will send a request to your acquirer, which will then send a message to your bank, and then bank will confirm whether your card has that particular amount available, or your account has that amount available, or credit available, after which it is deducted. It is actually sent to an organization which then does the money transfer. The bank does not do the money transfer. There are separate organizations like CCI, Clearing Corporation of India Limited, RTGS, and so on. So they will run some kind of program, and they will do the actual money transfer, send the confirmation, which will then come back to the POS and then also land on your mobile as well. Okay. So all this is not done by one particular team of people. The POS system is developed by a particular team. The message that are sent to the acquirer or being handled by the acquirer are done by the acquirer team. Then the bank has its own IT team. Clearing Corporation of India will have its own team. So there are too many stakeholders involved now because of all this seamless integration. As user experience, I only get to see that I swiped my card and I got a message on my mobile that this much amount is deducted. Okay. So when I say there is a lot of system integration, it is about this, that one particular application is interacting with multiple applications, and most importantly, they are working in synchronization. It's not like fire and forget kind of thing that I sent something, but now I am not worried about what response I get. When I send something, I expect that the next system will acknowledge with enough information for me to understand that if I lack amount in my account, then it should show me a message that this much amount is not available. So that is what is system integration. And when I say stakeholders, stakeholders are the people who are responsible for developing all these systems or applications, and definitely client themselves.
Oh, okay. That's great. Sir, one more query. There's just one more query. The time permits, is it okay if I ask this query now?
Yeah, sure, please.
The question is, sir, you just now mentioned that there are too many stakeholders involved, and you also mentioned that each of them, for each of them there are different identities that are working. But you said that when these
Pardon,
transactions,
could you please be a little louder?
yeah, am I audible now, sir?
Yeah,
Okay, so sir, when you mentioned that it is not only the banks who are coming up with softwares whenever there is interaction between one bank to the other bank. So would
yeah.
you please explain the transaction to us in a bit detail, wherein like who else is involved is what I'm curious about. Because what I understood was if I'm going to say Axis Bank and if I'm trying to swipe my card over there, and then
Hmm.
if suppose my actual account is in say HDFC Bank, so I thought that it is a transaction between Axis Bank and HDFC Bank only. I did not understand that there is some other party also working in between.
Okay, so if we continue with the same example, let's say you swipe your card on a POS machine. Okay, so first of all, POS machine or point of sale machines are not as such owned by banks. There are companies like Ingenico e-payments or Verifone, MPay. These are big payment processing companies. Okay, and they charge for each transaction or whatever their ways are. So when you swipe, whatever information your card holds on that magnetic strip or on the chip that is present, that goes along with the amount that needs to be deducted to your acquirer. Okay. Now your acquirer has an IT team. So acquirers are different, like MasterCard, Visa is very famous. In Europe, they use Barclays also. In US also, Barclays is used quite large. So this acquirer will gather this information. Okay, so they have their own team sitting and working on this. They have their own application that is continuously trying to read all this data that is incoming in their applications, okay, or in their interfaces. So when they read all this information, they see whether all the details received are complete or not. So whatever bare minimum information or mandatory information is required for them to deduct that particular amount from the bank, they will first verify. So there is a set of validations that is run on this information. Okay. So far we have come across two systems. One is the POS, another is your acquirer. Then acquirer will kind of send this information to your bank. In your bank card details, it will also go, let's say it belongs to HDFC or Axis, to whichever bank, and it will go to that particular bank, and that bank will receive these details at its interface within itself automatically. It's not like they will wait for some time. This is all real time happening within, I don't know, 2 seconds or 5 seconds max to max, on a delayed network. So that bank would verify all those details. They will run a program internally or an application internally and check whether your account is valid, whether it has that much amount available so that it can be deducted. And they will send a deduction instruction to that particular acquirer, that okay, this particular customer is valid and has this much amount of rupees available in his or her account. Okay. Side by side, the bank will also send an instruction to Clearing Corporation of India Limited that this much amount needs to be deducted from this particular customer's account and added to that particular consumer or the merchant. So let us say you have bought something from Flipkart. So HDFC will initiate this instruction to debit this much amount from the user's or customer's account and credit it to the Flipkart merchant. When Flipkart receives this instruction, they agree that okay, we have received and we have also received the amount after they get the money from CCI. They send this back in an acknowledgement, which is then received by the HDFC Bank. Then HDFC Bank would send it to the acquirer again, and acquirer would then send a message on the POS machine, which will then print out the receipt that this much amount has been deducted. So now you see that there is a lot of stakeholders and a lot of teams that are working in this whole system, and this is just one example. There are many other examples of net banking. So net banking will have its own separate team that is working on. Even there are teams working on the user interfaces. So how a particular website should look like, or how the POS machine should look like. So did I answer your question, or do you want to?
No, no, yes, sir. Thoroughly answered. Thank you.
Okay. So point being that since the market is changing and it is becoming more and more dynamic, the requirements are changing so rapidly that the startup culture has come up. There are huge amount of companies that are registered and are working extremely well in the industry. Everyone is surviving and flourishing, and these are the people who require a huge pool of students to be hired, but they do not have the time to train them for 6 months or a year because they want to put them into projects right away. And that is what has changed the requirements or the expectation from the students. A level of skill set is expected, or I would say soft skills and interpersonal skills is expected, because these students won't be just sitting and coding, they would also be interacting with multiple teams. So why projects? So basically, I just okay. Let's see. Let's say to any of the lecturers who have joined us, if I provide you with 4 musicians, okay. Let's say we are on Tuesday. I provide you with 4 musicians, and I ask that there is an orchestra set up on Saturday. It's a paid orchestra, and the guests are quite premium, and they want that these musicians should be playing in that. Do you think that these individuals would be able to perform a particular function as such within that orchestra? A simple yes or no would suffice. So individually they are really good players, but on Saturday they have to play as an orchestra. They have to play songs, they have to play tunes and all. Do you think you would be able to train them that they would be able to serve this requirement on the coming Saturday? Again, a simple yes or no would suffice. I don't see, this isn't a very difficult question. I cannot see the chat box. Abhijit sir, if there are any answers in the chat, please let me know.
Well, one of the answers is not sure.
Okay.
Even I feel that I cannot be very sure. It depends on how good they are in performing with somebody. If they are
Yeah.
good, then maybe they will be able to. Otherwise, we cannot be very sure.
Yeah. So I think from yes, if someone answers yes, that shows a lot of confidence, and it also raises a lot of assumptions with that you are totally aware about those individuals and you have that much confidence in your capacity as well, that within a limited amount of time you would be able to organize them as a team basically. But not sure, I think, would be the most suitable answer as such, because we are not we are not aware as to how they would be working or performing as a team. What is the scope or what kind of songs they would have to play, whether they would be comfortable in playing those tunes or songs, that particular genre, and all these things needs to be seen. The same scenario is happening in colleges these days. Individuals, when they work only on their technical skills or when they work only on their domain knowledge, they are sharpening themselves, they are polishing themselves as an individual, but they are not doing that as a contributor. When you join a particular company or a particular team, you work in projects and you do not just work individually. Of course, individual contribution matters a lot, but your overall contribution matters even more, because that is what decides the project success. So that is why we say that these days, instead of handing over assignments, there should be actual realistic projects that should be taken up in the colleges, wherein all the students can gather and they could work towards a particular goal. We'll now go into the details of this. So right now, I know that even we had this in third year and final year. We had one project that we used to do in once in third year and the final one within the fourth year of engineering. I suppose that is still the same. So how is this project received in any of the lecturers? If you could just tell us briefly, like how you distribute this project or how a particular student gets a particular project, be it third year or final year. Any stream is fine, be it IT or mechanical or whichever. Usually, what is the procedure that is there?
Participants, you are requested to unmute yourself. In case if you wish to share anything, you can just unmute yourself and you will communicate directly with the resource person. Or you can always type in the chat box and I can read it out.
Yeah, actually, with my limited 10 years of experience, when I always speak with lecturers, I always feel like a student and I look up to their answers. So please do share your opinions, or this isn't even opinion. This is just an experience in your college. How does a project currently being distributed in the college among the students? Okay, I will talk maybe what happened during my time and what we see when we go to colleges. Either the professors or lecturers would assign the projects because they are aware whatever has been done previously and what new has come up. Then there is students. So what we did was we went and we Googled final year projects and we went through a list, and then we thought which would be manageable by us, and we did that, something like that. Then of course seniors are always there to guide in engineering. They will guide you from all the experiences. They'll ensure that the juniors are not facing the same challenges. So yeah, seniors did suggest. And one of the most trusted source, shopkeeper or the guy who develops the project for the students. I think we should be just actually we should have a level of acceptance, so that I think this is happening and I can still see that this is happening, that these people have more influence on the projects than we should be actually having. Now let us just try and understand, as opposed to this, what happens in a company, how a particular project comes to the company. So what we have to do is either we have our existing client or we are chasing a particular client or a new client. In that case, we research on their needs or their problems that that particular client or market is facing. So if we are developing a product for the market, we understand what kind of needs are present in the market or what kind of demands are being presented by the market. Then we go back and we develop the necessary skill set. So it's not like we know and we start working on that. We ensure that we have the necessary skill set to meet those needs. Now this might be internal. We might develop it at our end, internally with some learning and development, or we might go to a particular college and hire from there. I think this is what brings us to our previous point also, that when the need is very immediate and it is very urgent, we are usually looking for skilled students. So that is when we hit the colleges and we try to see if someone has really worked on that particular skill set. Once we are sure that we can deliver that solution, we will pitch that particular solution to the client. Now, this is like when you shoot for at least 20 clients, you get one or two clients. And that acceptance has to be there. You like we cannot just get disheartened from the fact that we went in with so many efforts and still the client did not give the project to us. After we pitch our solution, there is a continuous follow-up, and the follow-up can be as long as 2 years. At least in my experience, in my current company, one of the clients, we followed up for 2 years, and after that, that particular client gave us that particular project. And it was totally worth it. So that amount of patience and that amount of understanding has to be there. So that brings us to the next question. I suppose this is, quite simple. Your salary, like, do you guys value your salary? Apologies for that. All the lecturers, do they value your salary? I'm not asking if anyone is happy with the salary. The question is simple, whether we value it or not. Would it be okay that we stop getting the salary? Or we are not even discussing what is the need of the salary, but do we value that we are every month and we get a particular amount in our bank? Again, please unmute yourself. I think a yes or no would work in this particular. There won't be anything as not sure. Abhijit sir, once again a request, if there are
I
any
suppose I
responses
want
in the chat.
you value the salary, sir, irrespective of whether people are being interactive right now or not. But you value the salary, that is for sure.
Yeah. So why do we think that we value? Apart from the needs, yes, definitely everyone needs the money, but why do we value that particular salary?
Because we want it.
Yep. So you work throughout the month, you deliver whatever tasks have been assigned to you, whatever projects or assignments are assigned to you, and you earn or you pay your dues for that, and that is why you are entitled for that particular salary. The major challenge that we see right now is that students do not actually earn a particular project, and that is where it is seen that the project is not valued. They would just refer internet, or they would just go to a particular shop who is ready to prepare that particular project for them, and that's it. That's the end of story. They are not actually valuing. I have also seen that many students are not even aware about the track of their particular project or the development progress of that their particular projects. So this is the first step or a
So there
particular
are,
solution.
I'm sorry, there are two answers in the chat box. One is Sandeep Thakre sir says that yes, we value the salary. And Anu Johnson ma'am is saying because it is the return for our efforts. That is the reason we value.
Exactly, return for our efforts is what we call something that we have earned. So thank you for seconding that particular my thought on that. So these are the first steps that we are seeing on the screen right now, that we come up to, like whenever we interact with the college as we go for interviewing and all, we suggest them to set up a particular requirement school. When we say requirement school, we are asking colleges or lecturers to find out your realistic requirements, or day-to-day requirements. It might be as simple as setting up an application for your library, as simple as setting up an application for your parking. I know these would be this all these scenarios might be similar to whatever students would get as such in the market, but when it comes from the college as a requirement, the story changes, and how it would change also we'll see in the coming slides. So please set up a set of requirements that the college has based on the changing scenarios, based on the changing markets, based on the new uh, functionalities that a college might have taken up. There would definitely be new requirements every year that would be coming up. So please list down all those requirements. For each of those requirements, roll out deadlines for pitching that particular solution. So it's not that we only have requirements and we have shared and then the students can just come up and pick up one particular. No, they have to strive for that. They have to work to earn their particular project. So whatever the reason, they might feel that a particular project, is comparatively simpler and not so complex. Even in that case, there should be rounds or there should be sessions wherein students would analyze the requirements that are given by the college or lecturers, and they would come up to pitch those solutions. This would help them interact with each other. This would help them to understand what is the competition that is out there. And once you hear all of their pitches or all of their solutions, create teams which are across classes, levels, or branches or streams of engineering. If we take a simple example of, let's say, a mobile application, then have some students from CTech or CS background, have some students from mechanical background, and have some students from electronics background. That is what would help them to understand how interaction works with different set of stakeholders or different set of team members. So this is something that college should be dictating, that they should be pairing with particular set of students, because when you enter into a company, it is not the same set of people or the friends that these students they join. They are placed in different project wherein they have to adjust with different team members. So this would help us to ensure that the same kind of environment is set up for the project of college as well. Now, what are usually the common interview questions that we see for such kind of setup? So we usually ask, what was your engineering project? In that case, the student should be actually able to explain that particular requirement. Why did they choose that particular project? Why not they, go for something simpler or something more complex, something like that. Whether the project is in working condition or not. So based on the choice of their project, they should be able to also answer that whether it's in working condition or not. There is, how do I say, the complexity level. Some are very simple, some are very complex. So we have a tendency that the projects which are too complex, we understand that they are partially in the working condition. But there are some set of projects we expect those, or applications which we expect that those are actually working, and we should be able to see a demo for that project when we are interviewing the candidate. Then they should also be able to answer what part of work in that particular project they chose to do and why. So just like we saw that there are multiple stakeholders and there are different team members, that particular student should be able to answer that why did he or she chose a particular set of coding or a particular set of work. It might be as simple as going to the market and buying infrastructure or whatever small stuff is needed for that particular project. But the student should be able to answer why did he or she choose that particular task. What made him think that he was suitable for that particular task. So when they will pitch for something, when they will work on a solution, when they will be paired across different team members, when they will interact, they will try to figure out these things on themselves, and they would be able to polish that particular aspect as well as other aspects. In these particular questions, we are trying to analyze usually the curiosity and eagerness to learn from these students. So basically, when they explain the requirement and when they explain why they chose a particular type of work, we understand how they think, what was their curiosity, and whether what made them so eager to do that particular project. We understand whether when they explain this, we understand whether they are assertive and they are expressive of their opinion, because that is really important when you start working in a team. We also try to understand whether they are proactive. So if a student has taken up a particular complex task, so we understand that this particular person is ready to accept challenges. He would rather proactively go and choose to resolve a challenge. We also try to, so this is not something that the student can do at their end, but when we are interviewing them, we go to colleges to interview the students with a particular mindset. We have particular job profiles in our mind. Definitely companies train the students to some extent, but like I said, that these days the market is quite fast. So we have job profiles in mind, that okay, we have an opening for a developer, and then we have an opening for a techno-functional person who can be groomed as a business analyst in the coming 2 or 3 years, something like that. So we see whether that particular base is present for that particular student or no. So we see whether the student is suitable for the job profile that we have in our company. At the same time, we try to understand whether this particular student understands competition and can overcome it, because the competition never ends. It's there in college, it's there within the company, it's there with different vendors and with different stakeholders. So that particular student should be able to survive the competition as well. So these are the usually skills that are observed in our interview selection process. Does anyone have, I think this is quite relatable for all the lecturers. So if there are any questions, please unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Or in case if you do not wish to ask the questions directly, you can always write your questions in the chat box, and I can read them out. All the participating members are requested. This is of course a very interesting topic, I suppose, for all the members, because the resource person is directly talking about as to how while selection, what are all the things that they find important, and what type of questions they ask to the students, and what type of answers they expect, so that those answers, they will help them understand a few points about them, and on basis of that they will select the students. So if you have any queries or any doubts relating to that, you can unmute yourself and ask directly. Otherwise, you can also type your question in the chat box. Sir, until then, I have a query. You used the word techno-functional.
Yeah.
Whether a candidate is ready and if he's techno-functional.
Yeah.
So, will you please help us understand what is techno-functional?
So as yeah, that's a really good question, and there is a big demand for techno-functional role these days in the market. So techno-functional is a mix of technical and a functional candidate. Technical students are really good in development skills, and not necessarily IT, but this could be any field. So they have a good know-how of the technicalities that are involved in the project from implementation perspective. Functional is someone usually who is on the client side, who is talking about the functionality or that domain. So let's say when we talk about payments, if we take the same example, then a functional guy would be someone who knows all the flow, how that particular message comes from the POS machine, it goes to the acquirer, then to the bank and all. So he is someone who has that functional expertise. The challenge starts when these two come together. The technical person cannot actually understand the language of the functional guy. Okay. Now, to give you a simple example, in telecom industry, if you go, the term subscriber comes. Okay. Some some departments would call a subscriber or a customer subscriber when that particular person is entered into the application. So let's say you go up and you buy a SIM. Okay, the moment you buy a SIM and your verification is done, there is some application sitting at your provider which will do your entry. So some functional person would call that you a subscriber, because you have already registered with them. However, there is payments department, let's say. Payments department would call you a subscriber only and only after you make the first payment for whatever you have bought. So there is a difference between the understanding of this terminology. So that is the functional world. Now for technical person, he will only talk about that if the person is available in the system, yes, this person is subscriber. Now where it could go wrong? If the company tries to generate a particular list of subscribers, okay, the technical guy, what he will do, he will take out all the data that is present and he will just present it because all these people are in the system, these are all subscribers. And the payments team will only take out those people who have made some kind of payment. So now the management is lost. No one in the company knows who your actual subscriber is. And this is just one of the examples. This happens in many simple scenarios as well. Many simple scenarios as well, wherein the terminology of the industry is different and the terminology used in the technical world is different. So that is what gave rise to roles of techno-functional profiles. So these are the people who would actually bridge the gap between the technical team and the functional or the client team. So they understand the requirement from the client in their language. They convert it into different documents which can be understood by the technical team and which then implements it in the form of a code or in the form of a product. So that is what techno-functional roles are. So when we talk about business analysts or technical leads, these are the ones which would fit into techno-functional roles these days because they also interact with the technical team and they also interact with the client or the functional team.
Okay, sir. Understood. Thank you.
And since we initially discussed that all this is like there are multiple stakeholders and applications working, so all these applications have their different formats or way of work. It's just like a screw, not every nut can fit in a screw the same way. They have different sizes, they have different shapes and whatnot. Similarly, there are different specifications when these applications interact with each other. But if you make two developers sit together, I highly doubt that they would be, able to come to a conclusion which particular format to use. And even if they do, they wouldn't know whether it would work functionally. But if they go to a purely functional guy, he won't be able to tell them the exact requirement because he won't know what extra the technical team can offer, which might work as a value addition. So that is where the techno-functional person would interact with both the teams. He will ensure that whatever client needs is supplied. At the same time, he will ensure that the technical team understand what needs to be supplied and are able to add value to whatever project has been offered. So that is how techno-functional roles perform. Okay, so if we do not have any questions on this, I think we can go to the next point. So importance of interaction during requirement gathering. Why we are discussing this is because we saw in the first step that we created a set of requirements wherein students then pitched their solutions and you were able to form a particular team. Then what is the next step for the project to go ahead? So that is requirement gathering. This is where the students would sit with lecturers or anyone, even outside stakeholder or private stakeholder who has given the requirement, and they would try to understand this requirement in detail. So we have a really good picture that depicts the importance of interaction during requirement gathering. Let me just share it with you. So this is what, and this is a real scenario. There is a reason stereotype exists. There is a reason why there are memes in the market. This is happening across industries and in all the markets also, not only Asian but also in European and US market. So when a particular requirement comes from the client, this is what they suppose in their head or in their documents, what they are trying to say, that this is what they need. They need a Jaguar with this kind of particular Jaguar sitting on it, a symbol sitting on it. Yeah. And usually what gets delivered at the end of the project is something that is you are able to see on the screen. So this is a very apt depiction of what is or what happens in the industry in many cases. Client says something, it is interpreted in one particular way, and what is delivered is altogether different at times. There is also this concept of information lost in translation. I will just stop my video and sorry, I'll stop the screen share and I'll share a video with everyone. If you would just bear a moment, and we'll just try and understand what is how information that is shared by a client is lost in different discussions, and how having an actual project environment within the college itself would help the students to develop this understanding to interact with each other. Abhijit sir, I will just request once, I'll just try to play the video and let me know if you are able to see it on the screen. Yeah.
Sure thing, sir. Yeah, it is on the screen.
Okay, so the game is wherein some students are standing in a queue. They cannot see each other. They are facing in the opposite side, or they can only see one side. And the last guy with the black T-shirt is provided with a particular uh, set of words which he will enact and show it to the next person. And then we will see how this information is passed till the last student.
Okay. All right. So let's have Matthew then start. No talking.
Really?
Okay, so what do you think it is? Okay. And let me get a picture of what the word was, or the sentence was.
So Abhijit, was it visible?
Yes, yes, visible and audible both.
Yeah, great. So we just saw that the last person, that the initial concept that was given to that particular student was that he rode a bike and he fell. He had a small accident, and that was converted to something that the person is dancing. So now we understand that how information is lost in translation or lost in discussions, or how the focus is lost and the actual purpose of the project or the requirement is missed in all this. And that's why there is no surprise that what is delivered looks like the one that is in this picture. I am pretty sure that this must have happened with lecturers also, when they even provide their homeworks, that students take the assignments and they understand something and they do something else altogether.
Yes, sir, but I must say that there is a major gap that I identify now for the students, because what usually happens is in colleges, when projects are provided to the students they interact amongst themselves, they themselves take up the project and they themselves complete it. So the whole aspect of they working for a client, gathering information from the client, and then coming up with a project and presenting to the client, that concept is, I suppose, that is a major concept as you have explained it in the video also. Now I can understand the importance of it, and I suppose that is one of the major gaps which if you are able to bridge, it will be great.
Yes, definitely. So that is where we started also, that there is this gap observed, where that when the students join the company, they are instructed something, but they end up doing something which then causes different type of problems. Yeah. So it is really, really important that when we say project, it should be an actual project, something how market works. And that's why instead of students, gathering some friends and then going and getting a project, and them themselves telling to the professors that this is what we would build, I think it is important that we try to come up with actual requirements that are there. So let's see then, what is it that we should be focusing on? If these are the challenges which seem to be funny enough, but then what is it that we should be focusing on? What all are the critical aspects? And what would happen if we do not focus on them? Abhijit, could you please also once again confirm that the deck is visible for you?
No, sir, your presentation is not visible.
Okay, let me just go back and okay, I think now it must be presented.
Now we can see it.
Yes. So, as I mentioned initially also, that today we would be talking about solutions, something that can be practically implemented. So this is our next step, that after the requirements are provided, what is it that we should focus on, or what is it that professors or lecturers should be monitoring in the students. So first is completeness. Completeness talks about whether that particular student understands the bandwidth of that particular project or that particular requirement, whether he understands, if you have three statements in your requirement, whether he understand all the three properly or not. Then the second is accuracy. So accuracy talks about each and every minute detail that is there. So let's say if I come to if I would roll out a project, how I would roll it out. So let's say I want a mobile application. I would mention that for completeness, I would mention that that particular mobile application should be able to gather data for the customers. It should be able to send a successful message after data is gathered, and it should show an error when the application fails to gather the data. This is completeness, or these are the three requirements. Then what is the accuracy of it? The accuracy would be, the application should be able to gather data, but it should be able to gather data for 10 students at a time. So there should be 10 students who should be able to log in. If there is an 11th student who tries, then he should be blocked out. This is the aspect of accuracy. Then the second one is it should show a successful message after the data gathering is completed. So then what that message should look like, what is the content? Your dear customer, your data gathering has been completed. We welcome you to our application, something like that. Or if we talk about the third requirement that it should show an error message, then it should provide the exact details with entire accuracy that dear customer, please enter your PIN code as it is a mandatory field. It should not show some kind of error which the user does not understand. So that is your accuracy. Then consistency. To give an example of consistency would be the last two requirements. That once you have to intimate the customer that the registration is successful. In the third one, you have to mention why the registration was not successful. In one, you write dear customer. In the other one, you write name of that particular user, say dear Akhilesh or dear Abhijit. So there is no consistency between that. But it is really important that your application has that kind of consistency, because all these things, completeness, accuracy, consistency, makes a particular brand. So everyone knows that this is how it looks like. If you go to any of the e-commerce companies, be it Flipkart or Amazon, they ensure that whatever page you go, you on the bottom there is a slide which shows suggested ideas. So it is a theme that they follow. They ensure that the consistency is maintained. And the last one is suitability. Suitability means whether that particular requirement is actually suitable for the student also and for your market also. Or else, if we develop something which is not actually needed, that's not very rewarding. So this is what lecturers or professors should be focusing on when students are drafting these requirements. So from this we'll understand, when students will do this activity, we'll understand whether they have the clarity of that project, whether they understand what their role would be, whether they understand how they would implement the solution or the particular concept, and what is the project state. So basically they would know this is where our project lies. We have to start by gathering stuff from a particular market, or whether we can work with whatever is available in the college laboratory. And once again, I cannot stress enough, because I have myself worked in one of the projects. We worked there for almost 6 to 7 months, and there were after we worked for 6 months, there were another 6 months that were spent, and we lost. Not we, sorry, the client actually scrapped the whole project. So there were a lot of stakeholders which were working. We did our job and we came back, but we were still in touch with the client. And later on, we understood that after spending almost 2 million euros for 1.5 years, that particular project was entirely scrapped. Not like they kept a part of it which could be used and further development could be done. They had to actually scrap the whole project. Why? Because it could not meet the basic requirements. Whatever was being developed by multiple stakeholders, they could not bring it together and meet the requirement that they had. So when all this happens, the parties that are caught up in this, they actually have a loss of project. They face loss of credibility, because when we approach to a client, we approach them as a brand, and then if we are not able to provide that because of whatever XYZ reasons, we lose our credibility and reputation, which can potentially even lead to loss of jobs. So I have also witnessed this, that particular individuals are kicked out of the company because they behaved in a particular manner which costed the company a particular job. Because when you work in a projects, especially at client end, the egos are at on very high, and you have to be really careful. So even if someone who has newly joined the company, he is a fresher, but if he fails to interact properly with the client, it can really hurt the company. So then what is the next step? How do we resolve this? So we should be setting up realistic requirement points and problem statement. We should have rounds to discuss the solution. So initially we spoke in the first step that the students should be able to pitch their solutions and then we should take these decisions. So we should ensure that when they do the requirement gathering or when they are trying to pitch their solutions, there are different rounds. You can ask them for revision in their solution. You can guide them to a better architecture. So if they come to you with a solution with your expertise, if you can tell them that what if we try to do this, try to do some kind of impact analysis and come if you try to implement in another approach that we are saying, what would be the impact of it? So ask them to revise their solutions. Ensure that all these interactions are happening so that there is an interaction between client and the vendor, where in our scenario it would be the lecturers or a private party and the students, and the students would be interacting within themselves also when they try to work on the solutions that you are providing or you are suggesting. So that is our second step. Once again, I say this is relatable. If something like this has been taken up or this is observed in any other aspect of the activities that go on in the colleges, please let us know. Or if there are any suggestions also from your end, I'm really open for that as well. Okay. So what all are the common interview questions that we ask, from which we can gather whether the students actually have this kind of understanding of things or no. So the first one is, what was the problem statement for your engineering project? So basically what we are trying to understand is what was the requirement. Because when I would tell the guy, tell the student something, he should be able to grasp that, he should be able to understand that, or he should at least be able to speak up and say that, yes, I could understand only partially. If you can help me in understanding this part of what you mentioned, because I'm not familiar with it. So there is a way of even communicating if there are any challenges that you are facing or the students would be facing. There should be a polite way or a professional way to communicate it to the seniors or even to their team members. So yeah, we ask them about the problem statement, we ask them about the requirement in detail. This tells us whether they actually spend time on the project and on that particular solution or no. And when they explain it, we could very easily determine, just like you lecturers can determine whether the student has actually studied or he is just repeating something that his friend has told him or her. So similarly, we can also very easily make out that whether the student actually understood the requirement and has worked on the solution, or he has just copied it from some senior or from some outside source. Similar questions are about the features of that particular application and product, what functionalities are part of the product or the project. It was very surprising in one of the interviews, like recently, that I was part of, that the student could not understand the meaning of functionality. So when we asked like what all functionalities your project has, the student was a little confused because he could not make sense of that particular sentence itself or the question itself. So then we had to ask them that what all your project can actually do, something like that. So when they get into all these discussions, these are the jargons which are used in the companies, which they can also come across and understand the meaning of. Then there are questions like, is your project scalable? I'm pretty sure that not many students would be so easily able to answer this scalable, whether they understand, whether by that what we mean is whether whatever they have developed for 10 students, what happens if we ask them tomorrow whether you can do it for 100 students? Will they be able to do it? Is whatever they have applied or used as a solution, can it be scaled up to ensure that 100 students can be registered in that particular application, something like that. So these are the common interview questions that we ask, from which we very easily understand whether the student is aware of the terminologies, whether they are aware of their own project or no. Abhijit sir, I would just ask you to check the chat if there are any questions, or we can go ahead then.
As of now, there are no questions, sir. I think we can.
Okay. So this is something really important, the timeline and planning. This is one of the samples that I had prepared. Now, of course, we had to hide a lot of details because we could not present it since it's confidential information. But this is something a timeline looks like for a particular project. So to the left top hand, we can see that on 3rd of September, we started the project. That shows project kickoff, and then there are different activities like user onboarding, infrastructure readiness, and so on. Then there are different milestones in between wherein you can see that the dates are highlighted and whatever will be delivered in those milestone also is highlighted. So this is like the timeline, milestone timeline at high level. So students should be able to read or interpret these kind of documents or these kind of diagrams so that they understand what type of work they are getting, what is the importance of it, what is the complexity, and what amount of stress it would bring them if they do not do it in particular period of time. So these are the diagrams that would help them understand all these things. And most importantly, it would also, when they actually do this for their own project, it would also provide a little of nudge to their creativity as well. They will try to develop, build this timeline in different ways. They will try to Google it and all. So definitely it would help the creative side of them as well. So then what is to focus for all this? That students should be able to, work in a timely manner based on understanding that whatever their skill sets they have, because whatever task one particular student has taken up, he might be able to complete it, sooner compared to other student. So then how to resolve these problems? So the first thing is they should be able to assess the resources and the problem statement. So problem statement, we understood that a requirement gathering has to be done. So they should be able to understand that. At the same time, they should be, able to self-assess. They should understand that what kind of strong points or strengths they have and what all are their weaknesses and what all resources are available. Just like I mentioned that some projects start in the college laboratory itself. Some project they might have to first go to the market and buy some stuff and then start working on that. So now they know what amount of time they would require for each of the milestone. Based on that, they can plan realistic milestones, something that they can actually deliver. And then they can work on these particular milestones that they should, instead of focusing on the entire project that, and be, stressed that, okay, how we will achieve this and all, you lay it out once and then you start focusing only on the milestone. Forget about the last milestone. Once they do this, they will also themselves try to draft the activities that are there. So let's say if the team has 4 students, then each student will identify his or her own activity and they should be able to draft all those activities. Whenever they are working on it, they should be able to prepare the issue log, whatever issue they are facing. To give you a simple example, like a student is developing something but there is network outage or power outage in the college for a few days or something like that. They should be able to draft all these things into a issue log so that they know that why they wasted a particular amount of time. So that when time comes and lecturers or professors ask them on the day of milestone that why it's not ready, they should be able to mention that this is the issue log and these all are the issues we tried to resolve, and some of those were out of our hand. That is where the RAID concept also comes. So RAID concept is risk, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. We'll see a few examples in shortly. So it is basically you just try to highlight what risks are there, what assumptions you are making while developing, what issues you are facing, and what all dependencies are there. Then there should be daily hurdles. So daily hurdles is a concept wherein it's like a morning stand-up call or an evening stand-up call which happens on daily basis. It's a 15-minute or max to max 30 minutes stand-up meeting wherein everyone from the project gathers together. They speak about the activities they are doing, they speak about the issue log, and they speak about any showstoppers that are there. And the last is to be innovative. We'll see this. Why is it important to be innovative? Any questions on these steps? Okay. So these days we are, even as companies, we are looking not only resolving the market challenges, but we are also focusing a lot in promoting innovation, because market is not only becoming dynamic and complex, it is becoming huge also. There are different set of stakeholders who want to consume different kind of services, and to come up to resolve those things, innovation is required. The first point is like they all took that one step. It is relevant to the first icon, that in shorts, that I have put. Can someone here unmute themselves and tell me what is in shorts? Is anyone aware of in shorts app? Abhi sir, any pings on the chat?
No, sir, I do not see any answers on chat. Participants were requested to unmute and interact directly with the resource person, or you can type your response in the chat box also, which I can read it out. The question is, are you aware of the app named InShorts? InShorts नाम के ऐप के बारे में आप कुछ जानते हैं क्या? आप आपका रिस्पॉन्स चैट बॉक्स में भी टाइप कर सकते हैं.
Okay, so InShorts is a news app which provides. So they came up with this innovative concept that because the news are long and people do not have a lot of time these days, they ensure that they provide the news in 60 words. No matter what news has been published, they will provide it to you in 60 words, so that you just open you. So it's not as short as a headline that you won't have any details, and it's not an unnecessary essay that you would waste time reading the same thing again and again. 60 words would ensure that you understand what has happened, and you will have accurate details also. So this was done by IITian students during their college years. They started it in the year 2013. They started it as their college project, which was then bought by Times of India, I think in the year 2015 or 2016. And now their revenue is in crores. It is a very simple concept. It has got nothing to do with the college ranking or the availability of infra or anything. When they started, they actually used to scour for the news that are presented by other news agencies. They would edit it manually and they would put it in their app. And for that matter, it wasn't even an app. It was initially a Facebook page. So it's not like they launched, a polished application on the day one. When even I have these discussions with my client, when we try to implement something, I always say this to them when they are working, and if they complain, that you cannot have Sachin Tendulkar on day one. So similarly, although we are not expecting from colleges a student, who is a project manager or technical lead on day one, but they should at least have that particular background which the market demands. And these days, it has been observed that a lot of pioneers in this industry are coming from non-IITs, non-IIMs background, because companies are ready to invest if your idea makes sense. It might be very simple and it might be very complex. The second that we see is the best example of innovation that came out of limited resources and the situation that presented itself with a timeline. So in the 70s and all, there were a lot of wars going on in Cambodia and their nearby countries, which then lasted for several years. And during that time, the one of the most deadly weapon that was used was landmines. So on their countrysides or on their country borders, they would plant all these mines. This is how it started. But eventually, as people started penetrating each other's boundaries, these were laid out across cities also. Across fields, there would be landmines laid so that when the enemy would come, they would face those deadly landmines. Now, the challenge that actually started was when the war was over, within the same country or within the land which is now peaceful, there were landmines which no one could detect, and people were dying. So then everyone came up with the solution of landmine detectors and all. But considering the time in those days, landmine detectors were very expensive. On top of that, the countries were really poor and they had to focus their money on other things also, which were more urgent. And even though after all this was done, that they did buy some landmine detectors, the process was very slow, and there was still loss of humans that they had to face because the detectors were not 100% right all the times. So there was this NGO that came up with a very, very innovative solution. What we are trying to see here is that the resources are limited. We do not have enough money, we do not have enough time also. But the challenge is really important. The challenge needs to be resolved quickly. So this NGO, these people, they actually trained rats to detect landmines, and initially they were criticized like anything. Everyone actually laughed at them, saying that this is something very impractical, something that will never work. Because all these kind of comments were passed at them. But after when they did their first launch, 4 hero rats were produced by them, which could scour for 200 square feet of land within few minutes. So it was at a very faster rate compared to the metal detectors, and it was very, very, very cost efficient. At the same time, it ensured that there is no loss of humans, because rats could very easily walk on those landmines. They won't trigger those landmines, and they could very, very, not easily, but after a particular amount of training, they could definitely spot a particular landmine. So this is what we see, that when someone comes across a situation wherein they have limited resources, but they have to overcome that particular requirement in a limited amount of time, that is when innovation happens. So give your students such kind of challenges. They should be able to work in little stressful situations. They should be able to work when there is a timeline or a deadline or a milestone is coming up. They should not be stressed out or burnt out totally while working on this, or when they actually work in the companies. Another example of this innovation is about Indian, Marwadi, and Japanese. So this is being told in all healthy faith and with all the healthy mindset, not for a particular community or anything like that. So there is this famous story about Japanese and what an Indian Marwadi would do. So they had this a Japanese company had a big belt wherein they would preparing soaps, and on that belt they would on the last belt they would put the soap in the particular cover, and the soap would come out of the machine, and eventually it will go and drop down in a particular container. Now the challenge was, what happened was, when the merchant started receiving these soaps, they actually realized that many of the packets were empty. There was no soap present in that. And that is what started spoiling the reputation of that particular Japanese company. Of course, this is just an example. So it started spoiling the reputation. Immediately the merchants started complaining, and Japanese, being so strict and living up to their reputation, they started all kinds of researches as to what all can be did to resolve this. So they started planning some kind of X-ray machines which would pass waves through that particular soap packet, and it would detect whether something solid is present or not. So they developed, multi-dollar multi-million dollar kind of machine which would sit there. But then they had their own challenges that the soap should spend at least 10 seconds on that belt. So they had to slow down the belt so that the soap slowly comes and passes in front of the machine and then falls into the container. Now one Indian Marwadi, somehow he ended up in that factory, and then he just, he was working, and then he asked one of his friends that what is this machine, what is it doing? And the guy said that, see, I have to rotate the belt at 10 seconds per rotation, and the machine detects whether there is a soap or not, and I have to be really, really careful because this is a very delicate machine. If I break it, it will cost me a lot of money also. And then on the month end, when the Indian Marwadi guy and the Japanese guy submitted, what amount of soaps they have ready, the Indian guy had, he had like doubled or tripled that particular count. And then the management became very curious as to what this guy has done. So they went to his belt and they asked him, so like, what is it you are doing? So he mentioned that my belt, rotates at 3 seconds for per rotation as opposed to 10 seconds for the other guy. And then they said, are you not aware? Because they could not see any machine there nearby. So they said, are you not aware? Are you not worried about the reputation of our company? You are supposed to follow all these quality standards. What if there is no soap? So the Indian guy says, I really do not need a multi-million dollar machine. I have this table fan here. So whichever soap cover comes across the belt, if it has a soap in it, it will stay. If it is just a soap cover, it will flow off the belt. That's it. It will be blown out of that particular belt. So I don't even have to sit and find out whether there is a soap and remove it. It will go and fall into that container which is lying there, and the good soaps would fall into the different container. So this is how innovation comes out when we have limited resources and purpose or a particular situation that needs to be handled with timeline. And one of the biggest source is Google. We actually have to tell students in out of our busy time how to Google a particular solution or a particular thing. They have this habit. When we give them a particular activity or a task, they will either sit on it all day, and when we ask them at the end of the day, did you do it, they will have some very simple question, or they would come to us every half an hour and ask about something, which then again becomes a little annoying or frustrating. These things can be easily found out on Google, and actually students needs to have this habit that a moment a challenge is seen, they should go on internet and try to find out if there is any issue, there is any information given about that particular issue on the internet or not. So something as basic as how to Google also can be taught from the way of the projects that are implemented in the colleges. Now, just a few examples as to how issue logs and risk or RAID items are designed in our projects in companies. So basically, we in the issue logs we mention about the issue number, that is the first field. Then we talk about what was the date on which the issue was opened. Then we have category. So this is where the students learn that they have to categorize their issues. So where they should know that if I have infrastructure issue, I should go and talk to this particular lecturer. If I have requirement understanding issue, I should go and talk to some other lecturer. So that is the category. So basically they should be able to group their issues. The fourth one, sorry, is the issue, that the issue in short basically, and the description provides detailed understanding of whatever problem they are facing. Then raised by tells that who actually raised it, because after spending a month or 2 months, they might not remember who handled it, or if the document or the project goes to someone else, they should be able to understand that who had raised and who was the owner, which lecturer actually owned that particular issue, and who provided the clarifications on that. What was the final solution that was taken? So that when something is delivered, at that time we should not be having a discussion, oh, why this was done? How come we wanted a Jaguar on our car, but you have put a puppy on our car? So all these things apart from the requirement document, should be handled during the issue log also. The second that we see is risk assumption, issues, and dependency. So first is of course the serial number. The second is the RAID item. So in short, whatever is the item that we want to present, and the third is description. So this is where in detail we mention. So an example of dependency which I could very easily give is dependent. If two students are working and the second student has developed a later part of the project while the first student has developed initial part of the project, so the second student's part totally relies on the first part. If the first part is not in working condition, the second part also cannot work. Even if it is within itself, it can work, but it will not have the necessary inputs that are required from the first part. So it's like, if you are trying to cook, the second part would be, let's say, your stove and your gas and everything is available. But what if the first guy fails to bring the vegetables from market? You cannot really cook, and there is no point of the stove and the cylinder in that case, or the gas in that case. So this is an example of dependency wherein we mention that the previous process or whatever inputs that are expected for our process are mentioned, and we assume that these would be satisfied, and if not, then what is the impact. In that case, you should be able to mention, or the student should be able to mention, that we could not do this activity, or we will be able to do this activity when we have these things. And if not, then out of the 10 things that, or 10 tasks that are assigned, only 5 or 6 would be completed, rest of the 4 won't be. So that is how actual RAID document looks like. There are multiple documents, of course, which are used in the project, but these are something, students, if they are exposed to during their college times itself, it will be really helpful. So then what are the common questions, interview questions that we ask? So we ask them why you chose a particular approach for the project or for the solution that is there. So this helps them, this helps us basically understand whether whatever they are talking about or the solution they are talking about, whether they have thought it properly, whether they thought about the timeline or not, and all these things. Then the technology that they have chosen. So a lot of things can be done in multiple ways. Why is it that they chose a particular technology? Which issues did they face? When they speak about the issues, it is very, very clear whether they actually worked. Even if the students are really smart enough that they, prepare 1 or 2 issues for them from only from interview point of view, still it is very clear that it is not an actual issue that has been faced. And whether they could complete the project in time. If yes, how, and if no, then why not? So this also is a very good question that helps us actually identify whether the student is honest and he has integrity or not, he or she has integrity or not. I again request all the participants, if there are any questions, because these are the common interview questions we ask when we go to colleges. If there is something from your end, please do share. Please unmute yourself or put it in the chat box for us to also understand. And if there is something that we can clarify, would be happy to do so. Okay, I think we will move to the next point, that is teamwork. Something that we have been stressing now for quite a while, that we come across different stakeholders, we come across team with different kind of financial, family, cultural backgrounds, and we should be able to focus on the work, be objective, we should be able to achieve the goal together and enjoy it. We all know both, like the first one, of course, united we stand and divided we fall, but a team is only as strong as its weakest link. This is very, very important. It is so because when you are working in a project, even if one member fails to deliver his or her task, the entire project fails. And this is what happens in real time scenario also. If couple of our freshers, if they fail to do a particular task, or they take too much time to do a particular task, or even if they are hesitant to mention that they are not able to do because they are afraid, because they do not have the habit of interacting with different stakeholders or different people, they hold back their challenges, they do not share it with us within time, their work is pending, and then in the last moment what happens is we cannot meet the deadline or the milestone timeline, which can actually cost us eventually our project also entirely. So a team has to be strong within itself, all the members has to be really really strong, and this can only happen with the teamwork. We have to ensure that everyone is working together, we have to ensure that activities are shared properly, and that we are having daily stand up calls to highlight any kind of dependencies or issues or risks that we anticipate at the initial moment itself. So I also had a quick video to show how important this particular teamwork is. Let me just quickly try to share that. Once again, Abhijit sir, I will just request you that when I share the video, let me know if you can see it.
Sure, I will confirm, sir.
So this is taken from the Finding Nemo movie, wherein a set of fish is trapped in the fish net, and Nemo is trying to help them survive through that. So we'll see how working together as a team would actually help them.
You're
Is the deck visible, Abhijit, again?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So in the video, we just saw that it's not only about teamwork, but even how a team work, forms. So we saw initially there were only two or three of them who come up with the idea. They are the pioneers, and then they promote all the others to do that, and that is what is happening all over the place right now. It is not only few institutions, but across cities we see that this is happening, and even the startup culture, like we said, that it is coming up. So there are a lot of pioneers, and they are looking for really really good students. So that is how a teamwork is done, and I think we should have colleges also pioneering in the same aspect, so it can help the market to build and become a leader eventually. So then what should we focus when they are, working on after timeline and planning and everything is done? What is it that they should focus while they are actually working? So we should arrange something like issue log discussions. We call them war rooms. It is where all the students should come together. So there, if there is a showstopper, something that has not been resolved within the time frame, in that case, that particular burning issue, they should come, sit together, brainstorm, and come with a solution together with that. Everyone should work together and bring up a particular solution for that. All these things will help them to become objective in life. They will understand the actual nature of their challenge or the actual problem statement. Many times it happens that we are focusing on something, but the actual problem is somewhere else. So when everyone comes together, they should work in an objective manner and try to fight and fix that issue instead of that particular person. So this happens many times in companies, that when we sit across within, there are challenges, seen within the team members or within the vendor or the client, because they forget that they are sitting there to resolve the issue, and they take things to their own ego, and then they start, and then that is observed across the project. Funny thing is, it's not limited at times to that particular meeting, but then this friction unnecessarily goes on till the end of that particular project. So students should be taught how to be objective and how to focus only on the purpose of that particular meeting or that particular session, or the reason why they are in that issue of discussion or in the war room. So colleges should ensure that there are, environments to, so wherein students can come up with their solutions. They should be free enough to share all these solutions. They should be able to celebrate their achievements together and face the challenges together. I think we are moving towards, this is kind of the last step. So once again, if there are any questions or any clarifications, or if there are suggestions or any realistic uh, approach that a particular lecturer or participant would like to share, please let us know. It would benefit all of us. So now the last step is the handover. So this is something that would teach the students that unless and until they leave something, they cannot get something better. And this was something even told to me when I worked on my first project in the year 2011. So there was this client, and I was working with her in one of the banking products. So she just, once we were working and discussing things, and she just mentioned that, Akhilesh, just always remember that you share all the knowledge that you have, all the information that you have, and learn to delegate stuff. Only in that case you would be able to get new things or learn new items. Only then your knowledge will increase, because if you stick to one particular activity, thinking, being insecure that this is my job, if I don't do it someone else will, or something like that, then in that case, if your company has a better thing coming up, they will never consider you. They will only consider maybe new people, or someone who is free, or someone who has already matured enough for that particular task. So you have to ensure that you learn, you implement it, and then you hand it over successfully to someone, so that you are ready to take up the new task. This is very hard to assume in many situations because people get very attached to whatever they are doing, and at times a lot of students even become insecure when we give one task to them and then we take out that task from them and give it to other. The first impression that they have is if they have done something wrong, but then the challenge is they won't say it because they don't know how to interact or how to communicate it with their seniors. So I think within these college projects also there should be this concept of handing over the particular project. So if they are working on a big project, which can be handed over from final year student to the third year students or something like that, that should be arranged. And even if not, they can always hand over the project to the lecturers, wherein they should be able to explain the requirements. They should be able to explain how they have developed. They should be able to show things in structured comments by showing the consistency in delivery, or by sharing documents like what kind of design they used, what approach was used, and so on. And when they share all this, definitely I think lecturers also can contribute their understanding or their knowledge, which would help everyone to grow, and especially the students to grow. At the end, the purpose should be that the delivery is smooth and satisfying, so that the next party or the next stakeholder understands what the previous stakeholder has done, and they should be able to carry it forward if required. That is what the handover. In actual projects also we have this. If we implement something, there is some other vendor that might come and support our implementation, and in that case if it is not smooth, again it hits it hits the company's reputation, and the client might actually say that, okay, we understand that you have implemented, but this is not how you should be dealing with other vendors, something like that. So basically we have to ensure that we are supporting our client in all the decisions that they make. It's not necessary that we should only support to them only and only something that is bringing revenue to us. We have to also support whatever decisions they make. Only in that case they put that trust in the company, and they bring in more, they provide more business to the company, because they know that we are secure and we have confidence in our abilities to perform, and we would be able to deliver the solution because previously also we have delivered it properly. So this might seem something that why is it required for students and all, but it is really important because this speaks about their mindset, or it helps them to develop a particular mindset wherein something that they have actually worked on very hard, they were providing all the knowledge or information to someone, but then they should be taught to focus on something better that will come to them after that. So what are all the common interview questions for this is that how many project members they had in their project. This comes up when they work on the issue logs and so on, whether what kind of issues they faced while interacting, if they are trying to share the information, what were the issues they might have faced. There are different opinions, because when you try to share some logic, definitely there would be someone who understands it differently, and then they have their own logic. So people with different opinions, when they come together, did it actually help them to understand if they have any weaknesses, or if some places wherein they could improve. And the answers of these questions from the student again helps us understand whether he is honest, he has integrity or not, and all these things. Even if they could simply explain in a professional way what weaknesses they had or how they are planning to improve or something, that itself is a big turning point, and that itself gets a student into the final rounds or even into the company at times. So I think that's all from my end. Once again, I request all the participants, if you could unmute yourself. We still have some 10-15 minutes left out of the allotted time. Um, it could be your actual experiences wherein I could give some kind of inputs, or from this particular session, if you have some kind of suggestions for us, how to make it more relevant for colleges or lecturers, even those are welcome. We would definitely like to work. because when the students' quality would improve, it would definitely help us. So ultimately, everyone grows together. So please feel free to unmute yourself and share any such inputs if you have.
If any of the participants wishes to share anything, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the resource person directly. Or even if you wish to share something on your own and your innovative experiences, then that can also be that can also be shared. Well, I suppose, sir, that there are not many inputs. So, on behalf of Ballarpur Institute of Technology, I take this opportunity to thank you very much for all the inputs that you have provided and the comparison of how the industry operates and how the education sector operates and what are all the things that we should include in the education sector so as to ensure that the gap that we always say that it exists between the education industry and the education sector and the actual industry, it will be bridged. I suppose that today you have come up with really nice solutions wherein you have actually helped us understand as to what can be practically introduced in the education system, which is not really very difficult to introduce, considering the culture and the time frame and considering the rules that we have to follow. I suppose that whatever inputs you have provided, really they can be very easily adopted. And in the time to come, we will look forward to adopting such innovative solutions so that our students are at par and they are able to meet the needs of the industry. Having said that, sir, I will thank you very much once again for joining us in this session as a resource person. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, I did try to keep it as realistic as possible because that is what even we are demanding out of the colleges these days, that the work should be realistic. We try to keep the solution or the suggestions realistic. Once again, I urge all the participants, if there are any suggestions from your end as well, we do welcome those. Thanks a lot for the invitation, sir.
Welcome, sir. Now I will request all the participating faculty development members, attendees, to the feedback form for this session will be shared shortly on the WhatsApp group, and you can fill in the feedback form. At the same time, for now we say that the session is concluded for today. Tomorrow we will resume our session as usual at 12:30 p.m. All of you are requested to join us by 12:15 p.m. so that we will be able to start the session as scheduled at 12:30 p.m. You will receive a link on your WhatsApp group tomorrow morning as usually we do, and using that link you can join in tomorrow's session. So thank you very much all of you for joining us, and please fill in the feedback form. The feedback form will remain open only till 11 p.m.